I was attempting this question. Of course it's about getting to the answer. As long as you attempt it, then that's all you can do if you're struggling on it. The second time you read the question, highlight the key information. So what I would do is the things that I've highlighted, I might write down at the top of my solution. Make sure you write it down correctly as well. Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. I do hope you're all well. Like I always say, let me know how you're doing in the comments down below. Now for today's video, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to tackle maths questions. The other day, I think it was maybe 2 days ago, I think it was either Sunday or Monday, I was attempting this question. Now this question is a question on my problem sheet for this week for my Calculus and Applications course. And I'm going to be totally honest, I didn't have a clue what to do. I wasn't just the only one. I did have a look in my WhatsApp chat for my maths course and everybody was saying how confused they were about this sheet and how it was so much harder than others. I'd watched all the videos, attempted and interacted with the review sessions and things and everything that was going on and our lectures and all the videos, but this question I just didn't know what to do. Maybe that was my fault, I really don't know. So it got me thinking and I thought I would sit down and do a video to help you. It's kind of more aimed at GCSE and A-level students, but to help you when you're looking at a question or you're in an exam or you're unsure on your homework, steps you can follow to help you attack the question. When you're doing a maths problem, right, of course it's about getting to the answer. And at GCSE, and kind of at A-level really as well, but more at GCSE, you are taught you kind of aren't good at maths if you don't get the answer. And that's not true at all. Of course, with your exams, you really want to get to the answer so that you can get full marks on the question. But to actually have an understanding of a topic and to understand what you're doing, it's not always about getting the answer. And just make sure you've kind of got that in the back of your head for any question that you attempt. As long as you attempt it, then that's all you can do if you're struggling on it. You know, if you put everything down that you can do on that piece of paper, that's the best you can do. If you want to go and follow me over on Instagram, please feel free to do so. I did post this question on my Instagram and you know, if you followed me then you would have seen it there. These questions that we submit each week, they get marked on your efforts. If you don't get marked on correct answers. I don't know what I've got on this yet, but on my others I have got 2 out of 2 for the sheets. And that's on sheets that I haven't got full correct maths answers on there. Right, let's jump in to the tips for this video. Tip number 1 is, and it seems quite obvious, but read the question. And what I mean about read the question is, if you're in an exam situation, don't even think about highlighting or don't think about, of course you're in a time restriction, but don't think about getting your answer done straight away. Take 2 to 3 minutes just to read through the question. Really focus on every word that you're reading. And in the back of your head, think what are key words in that question. So if it's, you know, evaluate this, then you might need to evaluate it, but you might actually not get an answer at the end. Let's say it's an integral, for example, if you're doing A-level maths. If it's an indefinite integral, it might just say evaluate, and you don't actually get a numerical answer because it's an indefinite integral. You'll get a +C at the end. So think like that, read through, understand keywords in the question. And then my second tip is to then go back, and because on your first attempt of reading through the question you were looking at keywords, the second time you read the question, highlight the key information, highlight keywords, highlight maybe formulas that are in there, or highlight information that you're going to need. Is there any data in the question? Really break the question down. Just like you kind of would do with an English passage. If you were any good at English, which I wasn't, then you'll know what I mean. You know, you go through, you break down, you highlight adjectives and nouns and things like that. Do that with a maths question. Don't just think, oh, it's a maths question, can't do it, there's numbers and words on the page. Read the question really, really carefully, highlight your answers, underline, maybe have a colour code, and that way when you come to answer the question, you will know the important parts. You should hopefully have a much better understanding of the question than if you were just to read it very, very quickly and not put too much thought into the actual question. Then when you've done all that, what I love to do is when I'm doing a question, I don't, for example, write down my solution on this piece of paper. 1, because I do it on my iPad. 2, there's not enough room. So what I do is, and this really helps me, it helps the information after you've highlighted it and really read read through the question, it helps that information sink in. In your solution, before you even start doing any calculations, write down the key information again. So, for example, I'm going to find a question. Here is question number 1. You can see I've gone through in red and I've underlined keywords, they're positive constants there. Maybe this could have been highlighted here. That's the ODE of the question, just for example. You know, you don't have to understand the maths for this question to get an idea of what's important. So what I would do is the things that I've highlighted, I might write down at the top of my solution. Make sure you write it down correctly as well. I always used to do this in GCSE exams and A-level exams, because if you actually think, what your teacher does in class is they'll have a question on the board, and then if you notice and watch your teacher when they do this, mine always used to do this, summarise the question in their own words when they start their solution. If it's something like there's 42 blue counters in a bag and there's 50 red counters, then at the top of your solution you could write something like this. And let's say it's a probability question, you've now got that summarised right at the top of your sheet. You don't have to fish through the question again and look at your highlighted information. You can just transfer your highlighted information to the top of your solution. And that used to really help me. Tip number 4 is to think about the maths that you know. If you are presented with a really wordy question, or it's a question that might be at the back of the exam paper, just because it's at the back of the exam paper does not mean you don't attempt it. Everybody can have a go at those questions at the end of the exam. If you're doing foundation GCSE maths, those are just the first few questions of the higher paper. They know they're a little bit harder, but something's a little bit harder. Who says you can't have a go at it? When you get to those questions, or any question, even if it's at the start of the paper, think about what maths do you know. Is the question trying to put you in a certain direction? If the question is a graphical question, you're probably not going to need to think about trigonometry, or you're probably not going to need to think about probability. I don't know, I'm just guessing questions here. But think about as well, any mock exams that you do, there is generally a kind of style of questions that follow from paper to paper, and there's only a certain amount of things that they can ask you, and they're all quite similar. So think, have you done any questions like this before? Has your teacher done any examples, and do you remember anything from those examples? Hopefully when you start the question, you do step 1, 2 and 3, you highlight, you read and you write the information down, and from that, what can you do? Can you see any formulas from that you remember, and can you input any information into a formula? It's all about applying yourself to the question, and have in mind you're not aiming for the final answer. You're allowed to make mistakes in your answer. Everybody makes mistakes, but what you really need to understand is, what can I just get down on this piece of paper? Even if you just write down a random formula to do with probability, or you write down the rule for integrating, or you write your trigonometric ratios down, that's a start, because then something might switch in your brain and think, oh my god, I remember this from class. I'm just trying to make the question as simple and understandable as I possibly can do. So what maths can you apply? And then, even if you don't get a full solution down, your teacher can help you. They can look through and think, right, okay, you wrote that down, you understood that, you had to go at that bit, but what you really needed to do was this. And then you will learn from that, because you learn from your mistakes, and that's really important. So don't be afraid of making mistakes, and don't be afraid of not getting the answer. Of course, as well, if it's a mock exam, don't put too much pressure on yourself to get a solution down or get anything down, because mock exams, they are really, really serious, but they're there for you to learn. So if you don't have any idea, don't worry too much, because you're going to go through that mock exam paper, and as long as you do something when you're going through the solution with your teacher, as long as you write the solution down, go away and learn from it, then there's no problems. Tip number 5 links into kind of everything I've said, and it's use the question. The question could have the answer in it. So is there any, and I've written down here, secret information? Is the question hinting towards an answer, or hinting towards a formula? Or if you've got a diagram, what can you take from the diagram? It's all about extracting things from the question. And if the question doesn't have a diagram, are you able to draw one? Even if the answer or the question is not asking you to draw a diagram, and your answer doesn't need a diagram, it can really help you. If you're doing A-level or GCSE or degree, because I've been doing vectors recently, if you're doing vectors, draw a diagram. Oh my god, you've got to draw a diagram. It's really quite hard with vectors, especially, to know what's going on on. If you're working with 3D vectors, it's really quite hard to visualize in your head. Of course, be careful with your diagrams, because if you're just drawing it from the question, you might not get it accurately right. And then what I've done in the past is gone, well, my diagram looks like this, or my diagram's hinting towards this. Remember, you're not always right and your diagram could be wrong, but diagrams are a really useful thing to do to help you understand the question. Tip number 6 is just to have a go, and that's the final and most important thing I want to get across in this video. Like I've said, writing something down on the piece of paper is 10 times better than leaving it blank. I probably should take my own advice here. I'm giving you as much advice as I can do. As well, in exams you will get method marks. So the more you write down on that piece of paper, the more marks you're probably going to get. As a student, it can be quite hard to understand where marks come from, and that's why I always say use model solutions and use mark schemes to help you understand where those marks come from. Because you just writing down a formula that's got to do with trigonometry might get you 1 or 2 marks, or you applying some numbers to a trig formula, even if they're the wrong numbers, might get you some marks. And the more confident you get at having a go means your teacher can really help you iron out any errors, know where your falls are, if you like, and that way, the more you have a go, the more errors you can iron out, and the better you will get, the more questions that you do. So the key thing in this video is to do as much as you can on that piece of paper. That is all I've got for this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. You can follow me over on Instagram if you want to. Let me know if you've got any questions as well, or any more advice that you'd like. Leave them in the comments down below. And apart from that, I will see you very, very soon with a brand new video. Bye! And I'm going to be totally honest, I didn't have a clue what to do.